Factors and multiples crop up all over mathematics. So first of all, we're going to have a look at some definitions. A factor, sometimes it's called a divisor, is an integer which divides exactly into another integer. So for example, numbers like 3 divide exactly into 9. So 3 is a factor of 9. The number 5 divides exactly into 25. So 5 is a factor of 25. So as long as the number divides exactly into the other number with no remainder or no decimal places, then that number is a factor. A number can have 1, 2 or many more factors. The other side of factors are multiples. Multiple is simply one number times another. So best to do this by examples. 15 is a multiple of 3. It's 5 times 3. 30 is a multiple of 6. It's 5 times 6. You can see that multiples and factors are connected. The number 30 is 6 times 5. So we say that 30 is a multiple of 6 and it's a multiple of 5. We also say that 5 and 6 are factors of 30. So you can see the connection there. Make sure you've understood the idea of factors and multiples before we move on to prime numbers. You may have seen prime numbers before in another video. We're just going to rehearse what we've looked at before to make sure you understand them. So a prime number is an integer that has exactly 2 factors, and that will be the number 1 and the prime number itself. So for example, 3 is a prime number. It just has 1 and 3 as its factors. 5 is a prime number. No other integers divide into 5 apart from 1 and 5. 2 is a prime number, but it's an even prime number, and it's the only even prime number. The number 1 is not a prime number because it only has one factor. All in all, there are 168 prime numbers less than 1,000. No one's expecting you to memorize them. Then we have composite numbers. A composite number is any number that's not a prime number. That's fairly easy to remember, isn't it? So as long as you know what a prime number is, then a composite number is any number that's not prime. You can see why they're called composite numbers when you look at the video on prime factors. That explains exactly where that name comes from. So let's have a look now at the highest common factor of two numbers. This is simply the largest number that's a factor of both of them. So it's the highest common factor. So let's look at two numbers. Let's look at 12 and 18. Quick way to work out what the highest common factor is write out the factors of each number. So the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12. All of those numbers divide into 12 with no remainder. And similarly with 18, the factors are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9 and 18. So get rid of the ones that are only in one list. We've done that. And then what's the highest number that's in both of those lists? Well, there we go. The highest number in both of those lists is the number 6. So 6 is the highest common factor of the numbers 12 and 18. Like many things in maths, it's helpful if you know your times tables when working out highest common factors. Makes life easier for you. Okay, let's have a look at the lowest common multiple. So the lowest common multiple of two numbers is the smallest number they both divide into. So let's do the same thing with 12 and 18 again. Write out the multiples of each number, alternating between them until you write down the same number in both lists. So first of all, we've written down the times 2. We've got 24 and then 36. Then we've written down the times 3 for 12, but suddenly look, we've got 36 in both lists. So 36 is the lowest common multiple of 12 and 18. Highest common factors and lowest common multiples are useful to know when working with fractions. It helps us work out a fraction in its simplest terms. You must remember as well that it's not just pairs of numbers that will have highest common factors and lowest common multiples. groups of 3 or more numbers also have these properties. So for example, if we look at the highest common factor of 12, 28 and 56, that number would be 4 because it's the highest number that divides into all of those numbers. Similarly, the lowest common multiple of these 3 numbers is 168. And you could work that out by writing out the lists of numbers as we've done previously. This can be quite laborious, particularly if we've got more than 2 numbers, and particularly if those numbers are quite large. If you think about writing out all the factors of a very large number, that would be quite a laborious task to undertake. As always in maths, someone has worked out an easier way to do that. But before we can use that method, we have to look at the next video in this series, which is all about prime factors.